Alright, a couple of Christians have decided to ask 5 questions of atheists. Of course, I'm sure they purely want to simply understand our position better. There's no ulterior motive here. So, let's begin.
Hey YouTube, we're Christians and we have 5 questions for atheists.
So, why are you addressing YouTube and not atheists?
Hopefully this will help us better understand where you guys are coming from.
Alright, let's get right to it. The first question is fairly common, but the answers are always interesting.
You didn't actually get right to it. You said, let's get right to it, and then you said something else, which fails to get right to it.
Question 1. What kind of evidence would it take for you to believe in God?
Not what would be a good start, but what evidence would actually convince you?
Well, what evidence convinced you that there's a God? My problem with this question really is that Christians don't really understand what evidence is because they don't demand it for themselves. And you can see what kind of evidence we accept for other things, like evolution and the Big Bang Theory. Although when I say we, I don't mean all atheists. I mean atheists who do accept those. And that's all we really do. We accept explanations. We don't believe in things. So the best answer to this question is physical evidence.
And when we say God, we're talking about a mind which is all-loving, all-powerful, meaning he can do everything but the logically contradictory, all-knowing, and eternal.
Why don't you just say, we mean Yahweh? A being that cannot do the logical contradictory is not all-powerful. And a being that would allow suffering in the world voluntarily is not all-loving. So, the being that you proposed just now contradicts itself.
Question 2. Is there anything that I can do that could possibly convince you that God exists?
Like, would any argument we could make have the potential to persuade you?
What this question tells me is that you aren't really asking questions. What you're really doing here is trying to convert. And so I'm not going to answer it.
Question 3. If you realized that an all-loving God existed, would you desire to have a relationship with him?
If you said yes to that question, would you want to have a relationship with him just to get into heaven or for some other reason?
Here is yet another flawed question. First, you say, if you propose, for the sake of argument, that a loving God exists, and then you make the leap to say, would you want a relationship with him to get into heaven? Now, you didn't say in the original premise that this loving God holds the keys to heaven. All you said is that he is a loving God. And so it becomes clear to me that you mean the Christian God. So why didn't you just say the Christian God? Now, if such a God existed, and it wasn't necessarily the Christian God, I will ignore the part about heaven, because I'm not going to answer that. That's stupid. What would be the point of seeking a relationship with a being that just mindlessly loves everything and everyone? How could you not have a relationship with them? I think a being like that would be too annoying, really. I mean, he wouldn't really have a mind of his own if he's stuck on love mode all the time.
Question 4. Have you ever met a Christian who lives their life in such a way that it is clear that they really believe in an all-loving God?
Meaning they live a life which is impressively kind, loving, and selfless.
How does living a life that is kind, loving, and selfless mean that they believe in a loving God? That it doesn't follow. You can live a life that is kind and selfless and wonderful without believing in a God, loving or otherwise. And why does this God have to be loving? Oh, because you mean Yahweh. Just say Yahweh. Don't pretend you're not talking about your religion. Don't pretend that you're proposing it could just be any God. We're not trying to convince you to become a Christian, because I can see through it. I can see what you're doing. And it's not working.
And question 5. Has the presence or lack of that type of Christian had any impact on your atheism?
Yes. The fact that there are no good Christians is the whole reason why I'm an atheist. The real question you should have asked here is, why are you an atheist? And there are hundreds and thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, of videos on YouTube of people explaining why they are atheists. Why don't you watch one of them or a bunch of them? You need to. Because you clearly don't understand the first thing about atheism. That's clear in this video with these questions. You are not trying to understand atheists. You're trying to find a better way to convert them. Because you so far surely have not had any success. You're not going to get any help from us. Now, if you find yourself questioning your faith, then you need some support from someone who will understand, someone who has lost their faith. Go ahead and, there is a community here of people just like that who have had that kind of courage and gave it all up. And we have found that life does not become meaningless or depressing. In fact, it becomes much better. Your life will improve if you give up your faith. I guarantee it.
Feel free to make a video response and answer some or all of these questions.
Oh, thank you, because I didn't know how I should feel, but now I know that it's okay if I feel free.
And as always, test everything, hold on to the good.
What are you talking about? Test everything. You don't hold that as a philosophy. Otherwise, you would test for the existence of your God and then realize that he doesn't exist. Oh, I see. It came from the Bible. Okay, now show the verse that says to believe without testing or seeing or anything like that. I know what drives you to try and convert people. It's pure ego. You do it for the satisfaction of your own egos. And you are so transparent. It is funny. I would say it's not even funny, but it kind of is funny. Just listening to your questions and hearing what you really mean. It's sad. You want to be able to say to all of your church friends and church family, yes, this person was an atheist and I converted him. Praise the Lord, although you would really mean praise me. I came up with the argument that converted the atheists.